yesterday. So to talk us through all these stories, we're joined by Cornelia Mayer, Chief Executive of the consultancy M&L Corporation. Always nice to see you. Thanks for coming in. Now, obviously, this story that we start with, the events that took place yesterday in France, I mean, France horrified, the headline in Le Figaro. That really sums it up, doesn't it?
But it is an absolutely horrifying story. And it is not just France. You see that rise of anti-Semitism, xenophobia in continental Europe. You know, we had these neo-Nazi murders in Germany, and the Germans have gone in very, very strongly. You saw President Sarkozy suspending his campaign, going there. I think the leadership are doing all the right things. We saw in Germany 2 candidates with Mr. Gauck and Mrs. Klarsfeld for the presidency just this weekend. One of whom, Mrs. Klarsfeld, was a Nazi hunter. The other one was somebody who had sort of gone against the totalitarian regime of Eastern Germany. So you see the official side of Europe reacting to it, but there is a very, very unnerving undercurrent.
I mean, one of the editorial in this newspaper says, you know, people's daily routines now are at one side, and people are seized by fear. But also as well, we saw the pictures of the rallies in Paris, and there is a sense of everyone in France coming together to say, no, this is not on.
This is very.
We do not want to go down this road.
I think this is very good, and it's great, and it's also great to see that the leadership, you know, the president suspending his campaign, that people are firmly sort of saying, this is not us. There is no space for such behavior in our country.
Cornelia, let's move on to the Financial Times. It's obviously a difficult turn to make from a story like that, but let's talk about Apple, because it is extraordinary, isn't it? This cash mountain, $100 billion, and opening up the coffers, and it looks as if, of course, that cash mountain is likely to grow and grow.
Well, it's likely to grow and grow as long as they have these innovations, but everything that goes up comes down at some stage. But what's very important here is, I think it's very good for Apple stock, because a lot of, especially pension funds, when they buy companies, they want to see heavy earnings. That's why the Novartises, the Roches, you know, the pharmaceutical companies who give dividends do so well. So this is a very good long-term plan. A second thing here is also corporate America, and also to a certain extent corporate Europe, sits on a lot of cash. And if we want to get the economies stimulated again, that cash needs to be released.
Same that, you know, politicians and governments don't follow the same, you know, business model, isn't it, and sit on cash. But anyway, but just to say, one of the critics out there, and of course there's, you know, everybody watching to see how Apple does, is saying, well, the fact they're giving cash away and is $45 billion over 3 years implies that perhaps they are no longer, they haven't got big innovations on their agenda for which they will need that cash.
I doubt that very much. I think it's innovation, it's also mergers and acquisition, and they still have something like 60, 70 billion. That's still a little bit of money.
I know.
Small change. I'll take $1 billion.
Any day. China Daily, this is the story about the cyber threat from abroad on the rise, and Japan, the source of most attacks.
That is I was very surprised when I read that. Because, you know, remember about 2 years back, we were all worried about China doing cyber attacks on the West. So now, and the second source is the US. So China was attacking the US, now the US is attacking China. This is great, but on a less flippant note, this is globally important, you know, cyber attacks, cyber security, cyber terrorism. I think that's the new world we're entering into.
Yeah, absolutely, and more money needs to be invested in cyber security, that's for sure. The business pages of the Telegraph, delay tactic to cost Treasury billions of tax. This is the, you know, the conversations and the chatter prior to that budget speech tomorrow.
Yeah, well, it's not. It's he does what he
how to keep your cash as well as like a sort of
if this is truly what happens, obviously. Rational economic beings and people who earn a lot of money, rational economic beings will optimize their taxes.
Accountants, don't they?
Plus, they have good accountants. And you know what I'm really... It says we're all in it together, so that's not quite the we're all in it together thing to do.
Now, very quickly, before you go, Kate, yesterday, she did well. Her first speech on her own as a member of the royal family, I would have been very, very nervous if I was in her shoes?
I think she did very well. It was a very short speech. It was always
pregnant pauses in it, but still.
But no, she did, and we're probably the wrong people to look at it. We wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't like public speaking and being in front of a camera.
That is true. And she wrote it herself.
She wrote it herself.
Apparently
well done. Well done, her.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Cornelia, well done you too. Thank you very much indeed for coming in and talking us through today's papers. And that's all from us for the time being. Thanks for joining us.
Bye-bye.